Nasdaq first focus on Cognizant's numbers. Remember, this company has actually topped market estimates in the last 2 years consistently in every quarter, and this quarter is no different. In fact, a very special one for Cognizant as it overtakes Wipro to become India's third largest software exporter. You can see those numbers coming up on your screen, and I'm going to discuss all that breakup with Gordon Coburn, who is the Chief Financial Officer as well as Chief Operating Officer at Cognizant. Gordon, congratulations.
Thank you, and good afternoon.
So let's try and find something to talk about, because this is going to be an applause sort of platform for you. But nonetheless, great going. How did you manage that? How did you manage that strong growth of 8% sequentially, and the fact that you've grown across all your various segments with financial services and healthcare topping it?
I think you hit the key thing. Our growth was broad-based across all of our industries, across all of our geographies, across all of our service lines. We saw healthy growth. The one thing that really stood out, though, is client demand for discretionary development services. So clients are investing for innovation, for their own revenue growth, and they've been coming to Cognizant for that. Our discretionary development revenue grew over 10% sequentially, so absolutely tremendous growth. And I think that's where Cognizant has really differentiated itself. The investment we're making in our consulting capability and our industry knowledge is enabling us to sit at the table with our clients and help them figure out how do they want to innovate and then execute on that work. And that's what's driving our revenue growth.
Many analysts as well are saying that Cognizant is really paying off in terms of dividends of the investments it's made during the downturn in client relationships. Okay, let's talk about these basic revenue mixes a little more in detail. So healthcare grew 10.7% sequentially. You got financial services, which is your major component, at 7.5%, and then you've got strong growth even across manufacturing, retail. Can you just focus on how you're seeing financial services demand, especially on cloud computing, and in healthcare, which pharma mix are you seeing?
Sure. So let's start with financial services. Financial services came in stronger than we anticipated. Part of that was we still had some M&A work that was ramping down, and we were very successful at backfilling that M&A work with other work at those clients. So the clients where we were ramping down our M&A work, their revenue stayed flat or actually went up a little bit. So that was not a drag on financial services. Within financial services, we're seeing those clients focus both on cost savings or efficiency as well as innovation and mobility. So we're seeing them invest in both areas. Healthcare is really interesting for us. Obviously, on the pharmaceutical side, that's an industry that's going through fundamental change, and we're working with those clients to help them through that transition, whether it be clinical data management in our pharmaceutical industry or tracking and assisting with adverse reactions for our pharmaceutical clients, to commercial operations, to core IT work. Right across the board, our full range of services, we're seeing our pharmaceutical clients embrace rapidly because their business model is changing so quickly. On the payer side of healthcare, because of a lot of the regulatory changes, their volumes are going way up. And there's a lot of regulatory work that's happening, and they're coming to Cognizant to help them through that transition. So what you're seeing through all of these issues, as clients have industry-specific issues, they're coming to Cognizant to say, we need to partner with you to tap your talent, to tap the global resource pool, and that's been very good for our revenue. Okay,
and the big headline, of course, Gordon, is the fact that you've overtaken Wipro as the third largest software exporter. How much of Wipro's market share have you taken?
We have great competitors, both in India and the multinationals. These are world-class organizations. We have a different strategy. Our strategy is keep our margins a little bit lower and grow faster than the rest of the industry. So by nature, we're going to cross other competitors simply due to our strategy. I don't think there's anything particularly significant about we crossed a competitor. What is significant is we continue to take market share from the rest of the industry and grow faster, and we should be doing that. Investors give us the privilege of having lower margins, and in return for that privilege, we should be, and we are, delivering industry-leading revenue growth, and we expect to do that going forward.
So is Infosys next? Because I know your guidance is $1.57 billion for the next quarter, and Infosys projects somewhere in the range of 1.75 to 1.78.
When I look at both our offshore competitors and our domestic competitors, the way we measure success is, are we growing organically? Are we growing materially faster than them? And obviously, if you're growing materially faster over time, you become larger.
So, okay, so the growth is on track. You don't really look at competitors right now. You're looking, focusing at your own
We're very,
growth.
very pleased with growth, and we have great competitors.
But it's unusual because at this time, the rest of the industry, which is $76 billion in terms of a total software industry, is complaining about the client environment, about the slowdown in global recovery, about problems in Europe, and now even in the US situation. So Cognizant really stands out from the bunch.
I think that's a direct result of what clients are looking for. Clients are looking to spend on discretionary development. They're looking to spend on innovation. In order to partner with a service provider for that, that service provider has to know their industry, has to have consulting capabilities, what traditionally the multinationals had. We've been investing heavily in that area. So what's happening is as clients want to invest in this area, their choices are actually pretty limited, and we're one of those choices, and we're a very significant beneficiary of that.
You see no problems in Europe? You're saying Europe is stable at a time like this when every single peer and competitor is complaining about that environment?
I think stable is the right word. Europe is not strong, it's stable. It grew on a constant dollar basis. It grew a little slower than company average in Q2. We think it'll grow roughly in line with the business for the remainder of the year. So it's not on fire, but people are making decisions, and people are moving forward. Though obviously not at a rapid pace, but it's stable. Which, given the challenges the European economies have, I'm very happy that it's stable.
And what about North America? Because today we're talking all about this debt deal. Okay, that's finally done, but the markets don't seem to be caring about that. They're focusing on economic data where they see a slowdown with not much options for the Federal Reserve, a benign case. So isn't that a concern? That's your biggest mix.
So if I look at North America, the government debt thing was probably not an issue for us because that more impacted consumer confidence short term. Corporate confidence doesn't move in the same way day to day. Obviously, the U.S. economy still has challenges. But I would view it challenges that are in a stable environment. What hurts us is when clients cannot make decisions because things are so unstable. We don't have that. Yes, people have to tighten their belts a little bit, but we're part of the solution to that problem. So as long as we stay in an environment where people have enough confidence to make medium and longer term decisions, which is an environment that we have today, I think we'll be fine.
You're not seeing double dip danger?
There might be a slight double dip. I'm not sure it impacts us. We're certainly not seeing a significant double dip. And once again, whether there's a double dip or not, I don't know if it materially impacts our business.
Okay, let's talk about your guidance. Very strong then, and again above street expectations. Do you believe this? How do you believe it will pan out for you? And will you continue to maintain your margin call between the 19 to 20%, which you've been consistent about?
One of the fundamental things in our business model, and one of the things we've committed to our investors, is stable margins. So we target a 19 to 20% operating margin before equity expensing. We're in that range. We expect to stay in that range for the remainder of this year. We're very, very confident of that. And then we take anything above that and we reinvest into long-term revenue growth. And that's important. It's paying off. The reason we're growing so much faster is because of those investments that we make. You can't grow fast and not make investments. So you either have to maximize margin or you maximize revenue growth. We've made the decision to maximize revenue growth with stable margins, and there's nothing I see in our model that leads me to believe we should change that strategy or that we will result in a change in strategy.
But will you make sequential growth of 8% plus every quarter?
No, I don't think that's realistic. First of all, Q2 always tends to be our strongest quarter. The June quarter tends to be our strongest quarter. We guided to 5.7% sequential growth for Q3, which is of the companies that guide is the highest growth. We guided to at least 32% growth for the year. So we put some conservatism in our guidance for discretionary development, just given the economy. We're very comfortable with our guidance, and if the economy holds together well, maybe there'll be a little bit of upside. But I would not want to set the expectation we can grow at Q2 levels consistently.
What about the currency equation in all of this? Because the dollar clearly has been weakening in the last few weeks quite considerably.
So let's break into two pieces. From a margin standpoint, we have a very aggressive hedging program in India. We have over $2.8 billion of hedges through 2014. So we're somewhat isolated from day-to-day movements in the rupee. Obviously, we have some exposure to Europe. It's 18% of revenue, so it's not that significant. So it's one of those things, we watch it, but I don't think it, unless there's a drastic change, I don't think it impacts our business model.
Okay, about the client addition, you got about 6 strategic clients, and for you, strategic means anywhere between the 5 million to 50 million range.
50 million or more.
Or more range, rather. Can you be a little more specific about these 6 new strategic clients? What kind of industry are they coming in from? Generally, a market size as well?
It's broad, so market size, these tend to be Fortune 500 companies. Industries, it's broad-based. Some in financial services. We had one in healthcare, one in manufacturing, one in information and media. So broad-based, and geographically broad-based. 1 or 2 of them were in Europe. So that's one of the things we're very pleased about. It's not one industry driving our growth. Our growth was really pretty even across our industries, and it's not one geography. And where we're adding the strategic clients is very much aligning to that broad-based growth.
Okay, I know attrition is not a problem for you. You've got one of the lowest rates, I think about 15%. But the addition of employees, you've got 7,100 now. What about the rest of the year? Is employee addition going to be strong?
One of the things we're particularly pleased about is our ability to recruit. It's the best it's been in our history, and that's driven by our revenue growth. Because we're growing faster, I can promote more people. I just promoted a record number of people. And as a result, people want to work for us because you can move up your career faster. So our ability to attract is by far the best it's been in our history. Year to date, net additions have been over 14,000 people. Attrition, as you mentioned, once you equalize how everyone reports it, is the lowest in the industry. We're 15%, and that's all in. That includes BPO and everything else. So we're feeling very good about the ability to recruit, the ability to retain. People like working for a high-growth company. It's a lot more fun. It's good for your career.
Absolutely. You don't want to lose a job when you wake up the next
Exactly.
day. But okay, on your acquisition, CoreLogic, a small acquisition for Cognizant, but you believe will reap good benefits for you. How do you see the integration process, and do you expect it to be completed by the end of this month?
Sure. So we announced the acquisition of CoreLogic's captive India center. And that really, they do work in the residential mortgage BPO business. This type of acquisition is exactly what we want. Extremely targeted, tuck-under acquisition to give us additional strength and capability in a niche area. So, industry-specific BPO. We expect it to close by the end of this month. Integration plans are already well underway. The day we announced it, we had an all-company meeting for the 4,000 associates, and the feedback was great. They're really excited about coming to Cognizant. And part of it is they're joining a high-growth company. It's good for their careers, and it's an exciting place to work.
How much cash do you have on your balance sheet right now in Cognizant?
We have about $2.3 billion of cash.
But you will still focus on small acquisitions.
Yeah.
Like last time you told me that $200 million is tops for you.
$200 million we focus on tuck-under acquisitions, which we define as $200 million and less of revenue, not purchase price, of revenue. Very simple reason why is our organic growth is so healthy right now. We don't want to be distracted by the integration of a very large acquisition. So these sub 200, the sweet spot is really about 20 to 80 million of revenue. That's really where we like to play. Those we're really good at integrating. We can do multiple integrations a year, and it's not a distraction to the core business.
Gordon Coburn, pleasure having you on the show, and congratulations once again. There's not much to really rip apart at this time, so good luck with the growth plans going forward, and hope you continue to see success.
Thank you so much.
The quick break right now.